Have you ever noticed someone who never says sorry, even when they are clearly wrong? Not once. Not even when the evidence is right in front of them. Picture this. Two people who are close, maybe a couple, maybe best friends. One of them says something hurtful, or breaks a promise, or makes a mistake that clearly affects the other person. Days go by. Weeks go by. Life moves on around them. But the words, "I'm sorry," never come. It's not because they don't feel anything. Most of the time, something is happening inside them. It's just that apologizing feels like something far bigger, far scarier, than two simple words. Today, we're going to break down the real psychology behind why some people almost never apologize, even when they know, deep down, that they were wrong. Reason 1 is fear. To apologize, you have to admit you were wrong, and for a lot of people, that feels like exposing a weakness. For someone who grew up needing to appear strong, capable, or always in control, admitting fault doesn't feel like honesty. It feels like handing someone a weapon they could use against them later. So instead of saying sorry, they deflect the blame, they justify their actions, or they simply go quiet and wait for the moment to pass on its own. Reason 2 goes all the way back to childhood. Many people who struggle to apologize grew up in homes where the adults around them never once said sorry to them. Not after yelling, not after breaking a promise, not after hurting their feelings. If a child grows up believing that adults are always right, and that admitting fault is something only children have to do, apologizing is never modeled as normal, healthy behavior. As adults, these same people don't avoid apologizing out of stubbornness. They genuinely never learned how, because nobody ever showed them what it looks like. Reason 3 is about control. For some people, saying sorry feels like giving up power inside the relationship. They believe that once they apologize, the other person suddenly gains the upper hand, and they lose their position. It becomes less about the actual mistake, and more about who holds the power in that moment. So even when they know, clearly, that they hurt someone, staying silent feels safer than admitting defeat. Reason 4 is something psychologists call cognitive dissonance, which is the discomfort of holding two conflicting beliefs at the same time. If someone sees themselves as a fundamentally good person, admitting they did something wrong creates a painful contradiction inside their mind. Good people don't hurt others, they tell themselves. So instead of resolving that conflict by apologizing, they resolve it the easier way, by convincing themselves they weren't really wrong at all. Reason 5 is fear of what happens after the apology is said. Once those words are out, they can't be taken back. They worry that admitting fault will be used against them later, brought up again and again in every future argument, like permanent evidence. So they avoid the risk completely, even if it slowly costs them the relationship instead. Reason 6 goes even deeper than the rest. Some people don't experience guilt the way most of us do. They experience shame, and those two things are not the same. Guilt says, "I did something bad." Shame says, "I am something bad." And shame is far harder to sit with than guilt ever is. For someone who struggles with shame, an apology doesn't feel like simple accountability. It feels like confirming, out loud, that they are worthless as a person. So their mind protects them the only way it knows how, by refusing to go anywhere near that feeling, even if it costs them the people they love. Reason 7 is identity. Many people build their entire self-image around being the reasonable one, the calm one, the good one in every situation. Apologizing threatens that identity directly. Admitting fault feels like losing a part of who they believe themselves to be. They quietly rewrite the story inside their own head, over and over, until they are no longer the one at fault in their own memory of what happened. Now, here's something interesting. Some of these same people do feel real regret. They just express it in a completely different language, through actions instead of words. They might do something unusually kind. They might quietly change their behavior. They might simply show up more than before, without ever saying the actual word sorry. If you know someone like this in your own life, their apology might already be happening right in front of you, just not in the language you were expecting to hear. Let's talk about a few signs you might be dealing with someone who genuinely struggles to apologize. Sign 1, they say things like, "I'm sorry you feel that way," instead of, "I'm sorry for what I did." Notice the difference. One takes responsibility. The other quietly shifts it back onto you. Sign 2, the moment you bring up something they did wrong, they immediately bring up something you did wrong in the past, almost like a reflex. Sign 3, instead of addressing the issue directly, they go quiet, change the subject, or simply leave the room. Sign 4, their actual behavior slowly starts to change for the better, but the specific words, "I was wrong," never actually come out of their mouth. But here's the real problem with all of this. Silence and small gestures aren't always enough for the person who was actually hurt. Without a clear, spoken acknowledgement, the hurt person is often left wondering if the other side even understands what they did in the first place. Did they even notice? Do they even care? Over time, without that acknowledgement, distance quietly builds between two people. Resentment forms in the gaps where words should have been, and slowly, the relationship starts to lose the safety and trust it once had. So what can you actually do if you love someone who struggles to apologize the normal way? First, try to understand that it's rarely truly about you. It's about their own fear, their upbringing, or an identity they're desperately trying to protect from collapsing. Second, you can gently and clearly ask for what you actually need, without demanding a specific apology they may not know how to give you. Look closely for their actions as a form of apology, even when the exact words don't come the way you were hoping for. And sometimes, real change in a person doesn't come from forcing an apology out of them. It comes from slowly creating a space where being honest, and being wrong sometimes, finally starts to feel safe. Because when someone finally feels safe enough to be wrong without losing themselves completely, that's often exactly when real apologies begin to happen naturally. Psychology isn't really about labeling people as good or bad. It's about understanding why we do the things we do, especially the things that seem confusing or frustrating from the outside. Understanding someone's psychology doesn't mean excusing behavior that genuinely hurts you. It simply means knowing how to protect your own peace, while still understanding the person standing in front of you. If this video helped you understand someone in your life a little better, let us know in the comments below. Tell us honestly, do you know someone who almost never apologizes? How do you personally handle it when that happens? If you want more videos exactly like this one, make sure you hit subscribe, because we simplify psychology like this every single week. And remember, understanding people doesn't mean tolerating absolutely everything they do. It simply means choosing your peace with a little more clarity than before. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.